Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming once again and some more Elden Ring as we are somehow into set 9 of things you didn't know in Elden Ring. As per usual, this series survives based on you guys coming together to share the little secrets and strange details of this game, many of which at this point I'm learning to for the first time and sharing with you guys. So a huge thank you. With that said though, let's just begin. Now here's a little lore detail and also comment from Trident Tank 88. Thank you so much for this. He brings up the Cleanrot Knights and how actually they're not immune to the Scarlet Rot at all. You might think of, say, Millicent, who is a created being, an attempt to recreate basically Melania again, and then obviously Melania, who is the goddess of rot herself. But these Cleanrot Knights, the poor people, they simply suffer in the presence of Melania. They choose to fight alongside her. As you can see, they vowed to fight alongside Melania despite the inevitable, if gradual, putrefaction of their flesh. Their acceptance of the fate made these battles the fiercest of all. Yeah, they knowingly suicide by the rot by just being near Melania. That's the choice they make. They aren't all rotten themselves, and that's a misconception I had myself. And that is why their armor has such high immunity. As you can see, it has double, say, the Vagabond Knight's immunity. And their weapons, such as the Cleanrot Spear here, are blessed with an incantation that literally wards off rot to give them a better survival chance. As you can see, when I equip the spear, it has the Scarlet Rot and also poison build up to show that you now have more resistance to that. You have a bigger bar. And it's also another little nod to this whole unalloyed gold method being Miquella's answer to the rot. His way to slow down the rot in Melania, but obviously it can't prevent it. Now, something I've talked about in a few videos over time is the power of specific types of element damage against certain enemies, or types of damage at that, which we'll talk about in a moment. Something we've seen in the Souls series though are some enemies having specific weak points, and we see that in the giants where we can shoot their face and that'll stagger and give you like a free critical. But we also have another enemy type like that in the mines here that has that pretty rare weak point found in the game. You see, some of these miners, as you can see, have these glowing embers coming out of what they're collecting from the side of this mine, and by striking it with any fire source, which comes in many forms in Elden Ring, as you can see, they'll explode like a suicide bomber. Now, it isn't every single enemy type that can do this. Apparently this one doesn't even have a hitbox. There we go. So what he's collected is, it looks like some blue crystals, some magic crystals. Clearly that is a different source entirely. But as I was saying, with specific types of damage, these guys are made of rock. So as you can see, my fully upgraded sword that should one-shot enemies of this low level like so, is doing basically no damage and I'm bouncing off of him. Whereas if I put on, say, this brick hammer, which I don't even have the strength to use, and it's +7 at that, I'm going to be able to not bounce and deal double the damage I was doing with my +25 sword. So being aware of the vulnerabilities of enemies in these games can really, really be to your advantage. Plus, it's just fun to see these kind of weaknesses and take advantage of them, as you can see. And when you're going through an area like this in a first playthrough, being able to do an AoE like that, take out multiple enemies at once, that can be really useful as well. So a shout out and thank you to Creeper Media Boom from the comments last time who brought this up. Now, one thing that I must admit that I'm a little bit disappointed by in Elden Ring is the very, very shallow mounted combat. When we first saw Torrent and we saw that we could actually do mounted combat, I was very skeptical because I felt, yeah, how are they going to do this in a proper way that's not going to be clunky and awkward? And unfortunately, I do believe that what we have is clunky and awkward and kind of what I expected. But I still enjoy it, I appreciate it, I feel like I don't mind doing it, but it is simple. Being able to attack on one side, being able to attack on the other side. Now, interestingly, there is some cut content where Torrent actually had a few other attacks, such as this little, backwards kick. I assume that would send someone flying. It would be cool in DLC as well to see a more expansive system when it comes to mounted combat, and how they might use that in more interesting ways, maybe like other boss fights. But there is some details you might not know about mounted combat, which is the special heavy attacks. Now, yes, when you're using a big weapon like, say, the greatsword here, or say a lance, you can do a lance style attack where you're kind of channeling the attack and then doing a final hit at the end. Each attack here, all these little ticks, that does damage, little ticks of damage, staggers enemies, and then the big hit at the end. But there are actually a few weird and interesting ones, like, for example, the flail. I know, the flail has an interesting, unique heavy attack where you spin it around and then you have the hit at the end. It's just neat. Like, it's a cool animation that you basically will never see because, frankly, who is using flails in Elden Ring? Basically no one, because they're just not very good. But there's a really cool one I'm sure some people know about, with the twin blades, which is spinning around. Very cool, like some sort of Sith with a dual blade. This is the type of thing I would like to see a little bit more of, these unique attacks that you can only do with certain weapons with Torrent, along with maybe at least one more type of attack that we could use, maybe when we're jumping around in the air, like a jumping plunge or something. Things that would work in the current system and wouldn't take that much to introduce. They don't need to introduce some kind of crazy new system to allow Torrent to fight. Just give us a couple more options when we're actually riding. That would be nice. Speaking of unique attacks then, let's talk about the claw weapons, these fist weapons that don't come in many types in Elden Ring. Another undervalued weapon, much like the flail. As cool as they are, they're just not crazy effective due to their tiny range and low stagger capabilities. Still, they do have bleed and I do like them, so I do rate them as a fun challenge build you can run. But like I say, there isn't many of them. We've got hook claws, we've got bloodhound claws, and we got the Raptor Talons. But interestingly, the Raptor Talons have a unique heavy attack. So your normal heavy attack with the claw is this sort of combo where you're doing these strikes, right? And see, as we swap to the bloodhound one, we have basically the same thing, like so. But for some reason, the Raptor Talons have their own unique heavy, one that you can't do with any other weapon in the game, which has jumping forward and then jumping backwards with a little backflip. And it's really quite elegant, actually. It's quite strange. There's a few weapons in this game that have unique heavies. Another great example of that would be the Lazuli Glintstone Sword, which has this unique heavy as well, which I've shown before in one video, where, as you can see, you're kind of overhead striking and attacking. But the interesting detail here is while I'm overheading like this, I'm actually blocking. That is a literal block. So you can block and attack at the same time with just a heavy attack with this weapon. Like I say, there's a few interesting and unique heavy or special attacks found on individual weapons that are rarely even used, such as this sword right here, or such as the Raptor Talons in this case with their elegant backflip. It makes you think, like, who designed the weapons and the weapon types? Clearly someone was creating more unique designs and mechanics for weapons, while others were just spamming out great swords. But a huge thank you to Sheepest Fox for making me aware of this one special attack for the Talons here. I certainly didn't know about that. Thank you. Now here's a trick that's actually been in the series for a long time, but was brought up in the comments by Chuck M. It's something I see speedrunners do in their runs all the time, and it's nice to see that it's still something part of the engine. And it's a simple trick. Now, when you jump off something high, right, you're going to have sort of a stagger and be held in place, and then you can move. However, if you use basically any melee weapon and do a quick attack just before you hit the ground, you'll prevent that staggering animation and can move a lot faster. Like so. So as you can see, I'm not stunned and I'm able to move quicker. It's a little trick, but when you imagine the amount of times you're jumping off something, especially in a open world PvP situation, being able to quickly move, quickly escape a situation, someone's chasing you down, being able to just move a little bit more efficiently, well, this is something you see in speedruns, and that is why. It's that slight efficiency in movement that goes a long way over hours and hours and hours. Chuck M referred to it as negating the hard fall animation where you kind of crouch down and get stuck, like I was saying. But yeah, this is something that's been in this series for a long time, so it's just nice to see that, yeah, it still exists and there's still purpose to it. Now, as a follow-up from last time, I was showing you this special dagger, which is a short katana used in actual real-world combat. Not so much anymore, but you know what I mean. So we have the Uchikatana, which is a katana, and then we have the Wakizashi, which is a dagger, and as you can see, they can be power stanced as if I'm using two daggers, which is really unique and really rare, and something I said in that video, I've never seen that before. I don't think there's any other weapon that can do that. Well, as neat as that is, as it turns out, there are technically other weapons that have unexpected power stances, such as this anchor and an axe. Yes, these two can be power stanced and used in unison like that. As you can see, we have two axes here. We have an axe and a great axe, and they cannot be power stance. It's only using the one weapon when I try to use that attack. But as soon as I swap to the rusted anchor, yes, these are in fact power stance attacks, as if I'm using two of the same weapon. But what's interesting about this is the fact that the anchor here is classed as, yeah, a great axe. It is a great axe. So of course it can be power stance with a great axe. They're the same weapon type. What's unexpected and interesting about the fact that we can use it with the dagger is, yeah, it's literally a dagger and this is a katana. Normally they have to be the same weapon type. These are very clearly literally different weapon types. Whereas, yes, the Great Axe Rusted Anchor is unexpected, but it's technically a Great Axe being used with a Great Axe, so it makes sense. Still, I find it quite unexpected and quite funny. I do think it's cool that you can power stance this weapon with at least something other than itself, but it goes to show, man, axes in Elden Ring, what an absolute mess they are. We're using a hammer moveset. This is not an axe moveset. And we're using an anchor and an axe, and it's classed as an axe. But if you guys know of any other interesting power stance situations in the game that I'm unaware of, maybe even another weapon type combination that works in power stance that shouldn't, like the dagger, yeah, let me know. Next, an interesting detail to do with your mimic. If you aren't aware, from the very beginning of the game, there are a couple of talismans you can buy from the Twin Maiden Huss in the round table. So we have the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror and the Host Trick Mirror. And it's simple. When you're a phantom, you can wear this talisman to look like a host. And when you're a host, you can wear this talisman to look like you're a phantom. Basically to trick an invader into targeting the wrong person. But if you wear the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror to look like you are a host, and then summon your mimic, of course that mimic's going to have what you have, such as the talisman that makes it look like it's a host. So it doesn't actually look like a summon. It's really cool, that, like, a really minor detail. I don't think it's that effective. I don't think you're gonna see much invader trickery with a phantom like this, right? But it is cool to be able to get rid of that image and get some cool screenshots of two of you standing next to each other like clones. This comes from Jamaican Butter in the comments. Or something I guess I was aware of, but I'd never tried. But it is a neat little detail, something you can do. All right, for our last thing, I have a really weird one that was found not too recently by the community. Yeah, so we're here at the Forge of the Giants, you know. It is what it is. It's a broken sort of cauldron, and there's this gap next to the bonfire you go around to for that very important scene in the story. And yeah, as you can see, some players have found something kind of unexpected and unexplained. It's very strange, and I'm not really sure why, but I have an idea. So yeah, there's an invisible area here, an invisible path that leads out to nothing, and it doesn't go into the clouds or off into the distance. It doesn't go anywhere. As you can see, that message down there is kind of the end point of it. But if I throw some rainbow stones down, you can see kind of the perimeter of it. You can see I can fall off there and die. If I was to go back towards this way, it doesn't take long for you to actually fall and die. Here, you see it goes down. It's a really strange shape, so I can go even further, but then I slide off the side. Fortunately, I've seen a few Reddit threads about this. It's something that's being talked about, I guess, in the community as of, like, the last few weeks. And what people are saying is that it could be one of these. You see this, like, head that's coming out the side, where you would grab the side of the cauldron. It would be the logical place for the next one around the side of the cauldron. It's just obviously this part has been ripped away and broken apart. Perhaps they've just removed that part and then made, say, the handle that would be over here invisible. And that simply led to us having an invisible pathway here that is just kind of random, a leftover aspect of creating this area in the dev of this game. But yeah, unexpected, certainly interesting, kind of weird. Figured it should be in the series. But there you have it, yet again, another set of things you didn't know in Elden Ring. That was set 9. Maybe we can come up for set 10. If you guys have some good ideas, some secrets, some unusual things you've spotted or seen in the community, maybe you've seen a clip of something somewhere, please let me know in the comments, and maybe, just maybe, we can come back for a 10th episode. It would be really cool to make it that far in this series, as there is just so much to this game that I am still learning. Strange details like this floating platform that I was completely unaware of until, yeah, literally this week. For now, though, I have, of course, been Hollow. Once again, you've been you. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.